And so I was talking about condition damage builds. You know, the Carrion's one way to go, but I also really like the Rabid set, especially for the warrior. You get that higher toughness, which can be really good for in a couple different ways. You can use the undead runes along with the Rabid set, which is really fun, to get you extra toughness and another converter. It'll convert more toughness to condition damage, along with your other traits that can give you toughness to power and different things like that. One thing to keep in mind with both the damage build and the condition build is what food buffs you use. The food buffs can really make a difference in all your builds. Like for the damage build, I like to use the new sweet and spicy butternut. Gets you some crit damage and power. In PvE, you can also use the truffle steak dinners. Those things are really good. 200 power after you kill something, and you kill things quite often in PvE, so that can stack up. And getting both crit damage and power can really add to a lot. When you have good utility buffs too, you can get more damage. These are kind of converters by nature, and so they will convert your toughness and your vitality into power, condition damage, or precision. And so kind of depending on your different stats, they can give you quite a bit. They usually give you around, 7-8% of crit, depending on what your spec is set up to. The power and condition damage usually give you around 200, but it really depends on what your toughness and vitality are at. And so those things can be really good trade-offs to kind of round out your build, whether you need a little bit more power or whether you're trying to get more condition damage in different directions. And also I like to use, especially for the crit damage build, a lot of all-stat gear. All-stat gear is really good, just like the divinity runes were really good at giving you kind of the 3 different pieces you need for the damage builds. And so I feel like those work really well together. And so the all stats, something that I like to use a lot there. So continuing on for the condition damage build, you can kind of continue. All stat does help you a little bit, giving you the different pieces, but not as much. And so going over to Rabid jewelry or Carrion jewelry or those types of things can really help you. And don't ever feel like you need to lock into one type of stat. One thing that's really good is a little bit of mix and matching. I never like to neglect too many of the stats. I'll try to focus mainly on one. Like this build's a lot of focusing on toughness, but I make sure I get a good amount of power. And you can also get power and condition damage from your might. As a warrior, he has a lot of really good abilities for stacking up might.
For great justice!
For great justice is one. Signet of Rage gets you more. You can also do a lot of good blast combos with using your fire fields and your blast to get you more. You can use other equipment like the Sigil of Battle, which can be really good at getting you might. And so you can kind of depending on your build, go with a little bit lower power and then get your power up into the higher ranges with might. Also using Bloodlust runes, allowing you to kill stuff and get your power up to those levels. So it's good because you can kind of focus a lot on precision and your power after you're kind of buffed up to get yourself some really good damage. And so those are things that I like to do a lot there. And the same kind of holds true with condition damage. You can either use the Corruption rune to get you some extra, or precision, or precision. One thing to keep in mind with runes is that the different types don't stack. So if you have the kind of on-kill runes, those things won't stack with each other. But they will stack with critical hit runes, so you can have those two together. And also, there's like on-swap runes, things that when you swap the things, but working together, you can't have 2 on-swap runes. Their cooldown is shared on all of these things. And then there is just direct benefit from when you kill things, like either health or endurance. Those things you can use with the other on-kill buffs because they don't give you anything persistent. They're kind of like instant gratification when you kill stuff. And so there's a couple different builds there. When I'm also putting up kind of my warrior builds and building tanky type of builds or support stuff, I like to use the soldier runes. They can be really good with the shout build, where you're running 2 or 3 shouts and using the trait, the 30 tactics trait shout on heal. And make sure also when you're doing this you use the shouts recharge, and that'll get your shouts down really low, but it can get you a really good amount of healing. The more healing power you have, that'll go up pretty significantly, but you can really help a lot of people by doing that. And then also with Shake It Off, you're removing one condition, and then with Soldier Runes, you'll also get another condition off things. So you can really become a good AoE heal and condition removal with that support build. And I like to run that a lot with the toughness and a little bit of power, just so I'm getting some good damage in there. But that's kind of one of my fun builds that I like to run there. Another thing that you can run out of that is I'll run the Soldiers Get Up, and instead of running the Shout, sometimes you can run it with Boon Duration. You basically only run 2 of a handful of different runes, sort of like I was saying with the Bleed Duration, but you do it with Boon Duration. And this can be really fun in stacking up how much boons you're applying, and this will let you do your For Great Justice will last quite a bit longer. You can actually get it up to, you know, in the like 70-ish range with a few things set up right, and that can really make these things last longer. You can actually get to a point where your Signet of Rage is permanent, especially with taking the Signet reducing trait in here. And then that'll allow you to basically permanently have this up if you want to run around and doing PvE a little bit better. This build can also be really fun with the banners regeneration. And if you run the different banners, especially like the Discipline banner, they'll give you kind of constant regen on all of it. And especially when you're running this type of build, make sure that you're also picking up the different banners. Because when you pick them up, their skills 2 and 3 can also get you more boons. And so this is a 10-second Fury for everyone, and with good boon duration, that can be, you know, 16, 17 seconds on a 10-second recharge. And so you can throw that off, and you can throw like a quick sprint if you want it, and then just drop it again, and you can get a lot of increase to the different stats there. And so that build can be really fun, and it also allows you to get to some really high might stacks. You can also, when running the Greatsword, one of the abilities I really like is the Greatsword getting might here. And so it's really a short might. With the boon duration, you can get it to last longer, but Greatsword, really good warrior weapon, has a lot of good AoEs and multi-hitting, and so that can really speed up how fast you can get your might stacks up, especially when you're in your damage setup. Another really big trait that I care a lot about when I'm doing warrior is fast hands. Giving you 5-second weapon swap can really allow you to do a lot more combos, switch around between your weapons, and do those things. One big trick I like to set up on my warrior, because I'm doing that, is I really like to care about the stats that are on the weapons and really allow me to change my character when I'm weapon swapping. And so when I'm running like a great sword, I'll usually run like a berserker damage set, because that's a pretty big damage increase when you swap over to it. And then I'll run my rabid set when I'm running on my bow. That way I can still have a little toughness and stay alive, but I also get the condition damage and precision out of it. And when you're on the bow, you have a lot more condition damage, and so that can be really good. This can also be good when you're running like a tank set and you're swapping to like an axe shield. You know, getting both of those things to have your high toughness, like a knight set or a soldier set, can gift you a lot of defense when you're swapping over to that. So I really like that kind of little bit of attribute switching in the middle of combat that can get me a lot of benefit. And sometimes I'll actually switch between some food buffs depending on the different situations. When you're running condition damage, I can't stress enough how good veggie pizzas are. 40% condition duration really can increase the damage you have in PvE. And we're trying to do those things. I also like to run between pistols to just get my condition damage up and not have to invest as much in my stats into condition damage, or if I'm really trying to just max out the condition damage. You know, it takes quite a bit to increase bleeding, but you'll apply a lot of bleeding, so it kind of multiplies up together and becomes really good. Sometimes I will just run the precision when I'm trying to kind of do a little bit more mixture of stats, but those can be really good. And so those are kind of some different builds. I really do like the condition, the boon duration build. It can be really fun to just throwing lots of boons around. It can also be fun to trigger some other interesting rune combinations that can get you more runes. Like you can run, there's a lot of runes that will give you boons when you use your elite skill, which can be really fun with the signet, getting different bits there. The boon duration build also works on a handful of other professions really well, and so that can be really fun to play in PvE. Some other big, huge things that are fun on the warrior. You can kind of build, let me refresh my traits here. You can build basically a warrior that uses his adrenaline less. I always forget these numbers here. And so there's a couple traits really early on. Like this one gets you a 12% damage increase just when you have your adrenaline really high. And you can also get some crit percentage on the discipline line here. And so the more adrenaline you have, the more it goes up. These things can be really fun for just when you're running like a greatsword or an axe setup where you build a whole lot of adrenaline really fast and can get you a lot of extra damage. You know, the percentage damage modifiers can be really powerful, especially the higher your power gets and your crit damage, that 3 combo I was talking about. Those things all multiply together really, really well. And so when you start to get 10 and 20% damage adds on top of that, and you have really high hitting skills like the great swords, hunter blades, or the axes, eviscerate, you can get to really high numbers. You know, and also the more vulnerability you get will also increase that, because you'll get a lot of extra damage, which is why the axe can be really good and the greatsword can be really good because of the vulnerability that it applies. I like to run a lot with characters that apply vulnerability a little better than the warrior does, or faster. The thief can do a lot of really fun vulnerability tricks comboing together, as well as a number of other professions, but combining those two together to get really high might stacks from the warrior, spreading out to other people, and some high vulnerability stacks can really augment the damage of your group and make for some really faster encounters. You can even throw in some other mix and matches where you go into quickness, like the Mesmer Time Warp helps a lot for augmenting, and all that kind of damage will multiply together into really high damage numbers. And so some tricks I do like, I do like condition damage builds a lot. You know, they don't multiply up as fast or as hard as some of the other builds, but some of the things that they do really well is you can kind of get your conditions set up on a character and then move on to another monster, and that will, it kind of allows you some time efficiency there. Even though you're not killing things as fast, it allows you to do a little bit more dodging and things like that. Something to never underestimate as any profession, but especially when you're doing a warrior and you're trying to stay alive, is things that will increase your endurance. You know, there's a couple rune sets that I'll do, like Rune of the Adventurer, that can help out some of that stuff. And there's some sigils like endurance on kill, endurance on swap. Both of these things can really increase how much endurance you're actually getting. You know, also another big one that I like to run that's a lot of fun is Signet of Stamina. This will give you extra endurance, and then when you run a offhand Warhorn, you can get yourself Vigor, and so the combination of these can really speed up how fast and how often you can dodge. And so dodging is really good in PvE, because especially you can kind of use it to fill the time in between your heals coming up. You know, the warrior has a number of good heals, and so you can play around with the way that kind of interacts. That thing also works really well when you're setting up some of the banner build with a lot of extra boons, mainly because you get a good amount of regeneration, almost permanent regeneration when you're doing that build, and so the dodging can buy you more time for your regeneration, which is a slower heal to kind of stack up and heal. There's other kind of builds you can do where you run signets and run traits that build up increased signet duration, or not duration, sorry. You get extra precision for each signet. Of course, I'm going to lose it here. And so that one can be really good for the whole signet build, and running that with some Signet of Stamina and getting your Signet of Rage going. And you can have a lot of extra just crit with that build and go together. There can kind of be some interesting trade-offs between whether you use the signets or whether you get your static benefits from them. And so that's a really fun build that you can put together, and it's really good for when I'm trying to run around or do map complete and things like that, so that I constantly am just a really simple build that I'm trying to put together. And so I think some of these are the basics. There's definitely more builds and more setups and more combinations with all this stuff that you can get a lot of stuff put together. But I like to run a handful of different sets of armor and build setups for my warrior. And I really adjust it to the party that I'm with or the group that I'm with, and whether we need someone to stand and take the aggro a little bit more, or whether need someone to do a lot more dodging and kiting of the creatures, or whether we have plenty of that and it's just how much raw damage can we output. And so the warrior is very versatile, and you can change him around, and the builds kind of change in the different game types. Things that work in PvE don't always work in World v World or in PvP. And so you got to kind of play around with those different things, but really keeping an eye on the way your stats kind of work together, the way your converters work, especially with the utility buffs in PvE. Getting higher toughness and vitality can really end up getting some extra points out of these utilities, and especially when you take traits like this one here, where you get more power out of your toughness, or even getting more vitality out of your power. You can kind of turn every point of toughness into more points and really just increase your overall stats. And with your kind of high might building, just innate abilities on the warrior, really good might stuff, and with a bloodlust rune, you can almost spec really low into power and still get a really good damage build that's very durable. And so that's one of the things that I like to do. And just remember, the more you get into any of these stats, the kind of the less benefit is the trade-off versus the other. You don't want a super high power build that has no crit or no crit damage. You're just losing out on a whole lot of damage. And the same kind of goes having a huge condition damage build with no duration. You lose out on a lot. But the warrior gets some good tricks on that, in that because you can run the bleed trait where you get a whole lot out of your bleeds and some veggie pizza, that gets you 90% bleed duration really quick. And you don't even have to invest a whole lot into it, and then you could go heavy into condition damage or splash into it a little bit with all stats or divinity runes, speccing more into these different things. So that can be a lot of fun in the way that stuff is set up. Another just kind of simple trick, it's not really warrior related, that I hear a lot of people talk about is losing their pets when they do, their mini pets, when they do their deposit all collectibles. And so just throwing that out, you can use invisible bags in the bottom of your inventory and keep the things that you care about down here and don't want to get sold. And invisible bags will also shield things from going to auto deposits. And so you can leave your mini pets out and get some extra use out of them in some different places. And so these are the builds that I like to run, and kind of some of the way that I like to play the warrior. Some kind of skill combos that are really important for the warrior in my mind is you can get your blast combo right off of your fire field, and so this gets you 3 stacks of might. I really like to use that in whatever I'm doing, especially with faster weapon swapping. You can swap around between your different weapons and get yourself might whenever you need, and also the burning and the base pieces can really go together. And so those things are really fun in combination with each other, and pieces to go together. And I think that's all I have for today and setting this up. Thanks for watching, and hope this was helpful to different people out there. So thanks a lot.